Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the February 25th, 2026 Community Services and Education Subcommittee meeting. I'd like to introduce the City Attorney, David Benton. Mr. Benton, please explain the role of public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the subcommittee, members of the public may speak up to 2 minutes to comment on agenda items to be discussed. Comments may be related to the agenda, must be related to the agenda item and the action being considered. Subcommittee members and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending investigations, claims, or litigations. Additionally, any member of the public who appears to the subcommittee in their capacity as lobbyists must appear and it is required by city code to disclose the fact that they are addressing the subcommittee as a lobbyist. City code requires speakers to present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profane language, threats, or personal attacks on members, public, council members, or staff are not allowed. Speakers should not act in a disrespectful manner that is openly hostile. A person who violates these rules may lose their opportunity to speak. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. I would also like to introduce our interpreter, Elsie Duarte, who will provide a brief announcement.
Estaré interpretando a nuestra audiencia de habla hispana durante esta sesión del Subcomité de Servicios Comunitarios y Educación. Para escuchar la reunión en español presencialmente, favor de pasar por unos audífonos ubicados a la entrada de la sala de cámaras. Las personas registradas para hacer un comentario público sepan que podrán hablar libremente sin interrupciones durante el tiempo disponible. Sus comentarios serán interpretados al momento que usted termine de hablar. Gracias. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you so much. Move on to item number 1, which is the approval of our CSE minutes from January 28. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, we have item number 2, which is the approval of the adoption of the Housing Department's HUD plans. I see there is a registered speaker. Do you guys mind if I go to that speaker first? Okay, first, we will call Brandy Garrett. Ms. Garrett is not on the line. Thank you so much. Any questions or comments from council?
I move to approve items 2 and 3. They're both from consent.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4. Any questions or from the colleagues? Five or six? All right, no questions. Moving on to item number 6. It's an overview of projects utilizing city-owned land for housing. I will pass it over to Deputy City Manager Gina Montes to introduce the presentation.
Good morning, Vice Mayor, members of the subcommittee. It's my pleasure, as the staff are walking up, I'd like to introduce the item. This item, city-owned land, let me say, is an important asset that we have in the city. We have many parcels. Many of them are part of the Housing Phoenix plan and have been in the city's ownership for many years, sometimes a decade or more. And so part of the plan is to get these pieces of land into productive use. And what better way to use the land than to get it into use for housing, affordable housing and other housing. And so the city team has made tremendous progress in the last few years in trying to push these parcels out so that the community can have use of them. So we're really pleased to provide you an update this morning on how we're doing and what our plans are for the future with city-owned land for housing. So I'm going to turn the presentation over to Titus Matthews, our housing director, to kick us off.
Good morning, Madam Chair, and thank you, Gina, and members of the subcommittee. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, along with my colleagues from two other departments, Samantha Keating, who's from Housing, Spencer Self, our Neighborhood Services Director, and Zanon Keating, who's a Deputy Economic Development Director as well. The third initiative of the Housing Phoenix Plan focuses on the redevelopment of city-owned land with affordable and mixed-income housing. After approval of the plan in 2020, a list of approximately 140 parcels suitable for residential redevelopment was compiled and approved later that year, with an updated list approved in 2022. Since approval of this list, more than 66% of the parcels slated for residential development have been released via requests for proposals or RFPs through a joint effort between three departments: the Housing, Neighborhood Services, and Community Economic Development Department. As a matter of pride, I just want to state a fact that 4 years ago, we were at 0% accomplishment in terms of releasing RFPs and redeveloping city-owned land. So today, we're at 66%, which is a significant milestone, and thanks to the entire Mayor and Council for supporting us in this endeavor as well. Collectively, there are more than 340 units in progress from the Housing Phoenix Plan RFPs that have been awarded by the City Council to date. In addition to the parcels associated with the Housing Phoenix Plan, key city-owned redevelopment projects are contributing to the number of created or preserved units we are tracking as part of the Housing Phoenix Plan. Today, our presentation will provide an overview of projects associated with the Housing Phoenix Plan, in addition to the other city-owned land projects with housing components. 2026 will continue to be a busy year for the Housing Department development projects. Currently, we have one site we're preparing for an RFP release, 4 projects in the planning stage working towards construction, and 4 projects under construction. I will now turn over the presentation to Deputy Director Samantha Keating to provide more information on these Housing Department projects. Samantha?
Thank you, Director Matthew. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. Ambassador West is an existing city-owned affordable housing development on approximately 1.7 acres along 5th Avenue, north of Van Buren Street in Council District 7. Current zoning is downtown code. A request for information, or RFI, was released in 2025 to help inform requirements for a forthcoming RFP, which is slated to be released later this year. The next project is Central in Columbus, a 3.2-acre site located east of Central Avenue between Weldon and Columbus Avenues in Council District 4. The site is located in close proximity to the light rail line and within a quarter mile of the light rail station at Central Avenue and Osborne Road. The vacant land was rezoned to the Walkable Urban Code, or WU Code, several years back to accommodate future affordable housing development. Haleakala Capital Management will serve as the master developer of the project, which includes 250 affordable units, a 40,000 square foot healthcare clinic, fire department staging and meeting space, as well as a shared city-owned parking garage. Moving to Council District 5, the 27th Avenue and Glendale project is a 0.6-acre property located to the west of Homestead Park off of Glendale Avenue. The property is currently zoned commercial and single-family residential. Habitat for Humanity will develop the property with 8 affordable attached homeownership units. Our contract with Habitat is currently pending. Helen Drake Village, also in Council District 5, is a 2.1-acre site located at the intersection of 27th and Morton Avenues, behind the Helen Drake Senior Center. The site was added to the Housing Phoenix Plan list of parcels to pursue a co-location project, the first for the City of Phoenix, at the suggestion of Councilwoman Guardado. The site was rezoned to planned unit development in 2024 to allow for 80 affordable units serving seniors 55 years in age and older. This project is a co-development project with the Richmond Group. In addition to the residential units, the development will include a walking path, sports court, and community garden shared between residents and senior center members. These amenities were included based on the extensive feedback we received from both senior center members and the community in preparing for the project. The development is currently under construction and slated to be complete in late 2027. The Moreland is a 2.1-acre project located at the southeast corner of 3rd Street and Moreland Street in Council District 8. The development will include 237 new affordable and workforce units in 2 phases along with a shared podium parking garage. Phase 1 is currently under construction and anticipated to be complete in early 2028. Also in Council District 8 is the Edison Eastlake Choice Neighborhoods project. It's located between Interstate 10 on the north and east, the Union Pacific Railroad tracks on the south, and 16th Street on the west. The transformation project, made possible by a Choice Neighborhoods grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, will help us replace 577 obsolete public housing units with over 1,000 units of mixed income housing, along with community-focused neighborhood improvements. Several of the planned housing phases, including Saluna and Harmony at the Park, are complete and have contributed to the Housing Phoenix Plan 50,000 unit goal. I'll now turn the presentation over to Spencer Self, the Neighborhood Services Director.
Thank you, Deputy Director Keating. Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee, in partnership and under the leadership of Deputy City Manager Montez and with Titus Matthews and the Housing Phoenix Plan, we were able to start with a lot of momentum in 2025, seeing 2 new homes developed and work started on another 12. We also initiated requests for proposals for a total of 85 vacant lots in South Phoenix Village, Target Area B, Village Center, and Isaac neighborhoods. And on the next few slides, we'll provide more information by highlighting some of those key projects. We'll start in District 8, just east of downtown, where we have 2 of what will be 10 new homes that have just been completed in the Garfield neighborhood through our partnership with Trellis. The new homes are just under 1,600 square feet with 4-bedroom and 2 baths and energy efficiency built into the design and construction. These homes will be sold to low to medium income families, and Trellis is providing homeownership assistance to help make that happen. Next, we'll move just northwest of downtown in District 7 to 2 properties at approximately 15th Avenue and Polk Street. 1305 West Polk closes this month through a contract with Habitat for Humanity, and we're working in partnership on rezoning 1410 to the walkable urban code to allow for a duplex. Both will be sold to low to moderate income families. In District 3, Habitat for Humanity is currently developing 4 properties in the West Sunny Slope and Village Center neighborhoods. The new homes are approximately 1,600 square feet, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, and include a 2-car garage. They're expected to be completed this June. These homes will be sold to low to moderate income families as well. Staying in the same general area, we also have 2 larger properties at approximately 4th Street and Puget Avenue, shown on this slide, and 3rd Street and Dunlap that a panel recently recommended we award to Trellis. These properties would be affordable multifamily housing developments with at least half of the units for low to moderate income families. Contract negotiations are still ongoing, but we hope to bring contract awards to the City Council in the next few months. Next, we'll return to District 8, where we currently have an active solicitation for the purchase and redevelopment of 17 city-owned vacant lots located in the Target Area B redevelopment area. The largest assemblage of properties are the 4 on the screen, just south of Broadway, along 16th Street. Since this is an active solicitation, our transparency policy is in effect, but I will note for any potential proposers who are out there, the proposal deadline is April 3rd. Finally, we move to District 4, where we have another active solicitation for 38 properties near approximately 35th Avenue and McDowell in the Isaac redevelopment area. Once again, I will note that since this is an active solicitation, our transparency policy is in effect, but the deadline for this is April 3rd as well. We're very excited about these projects and look forward to bringing the results back, hopefully sometime this summer. Now I'll hand the presentation over to Deputy Community and Economic Development Director Zandon Keating to provide an update on their dispositions.
Thank you, Director Spencer Self. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. So in the economic development overview of the projects that we are currently working on, I wanted to talk today about one site that is in the planning process. It includes 64 affordable units, one site that is currently in an active disposition process, 2 sites that we are preparing for RFP in the next several months, and then 2 sites where we recently completed a rezoning in preparation for a future RFP. So that first site, located in District 7, is on the west side of 2nd Street, just north of Roosevelt. This is the Penrose development. It includes 64 affordable housing units and ground floor retail. A development agreement is signed, and we are working with the developer towards making this development a reality. The next site is the site that is currently in an active disposition process, located in District 8. It is 3 sites around the corner of 24th Street and Broadway. As I noted, it's in process currently, and so we are working towards bringing a development forward to the public. But the total of the 3 sites is 17.4 acres. It is included in the Housing Phoenix plan, so that was something that we were looking at through this process. But we're excited to bring more details on the future of these sites forward to the City Council in the near future. The next site, located at 7th Avenue in Washington, it's also 3 sites, 3 corners of that intersection, approximately 4.6 acres total, also located in District 7. The northeast corner is the site of the former Phoenix Police headquarters. The northwest site was the parking lot that supported that police headquarters. And then the southwest corner is a site that Community Economic Development purchased around 10 to 15 years ago for future development opportunity. We did do a retail study at this location because that's something that we heard pretty significantly from the community and found that there is a significant need for retail. So that is a piece that's going to be asked for out of these properties, but we do expect there to be a significant housing component and are specifically asking for affordable housing on the southwest corner of the site. We did also recently complete a rezoning for the 2 on the west side, sites 1 and site 3, to increase the height and density allowed at that location. The next site, also located in District 7, is at the southeast corner of Central and Broadway. It's approximately a 3.8 acre site that's owned by the Neighborhood Services Department, also included within the Housing Phoenix plan. We did just recently complete a rezoning for this site to walkable urban code. And intend to release a request for proposals for this site in the near future. That would be asking for a ground floor commercial component, really to support the fact this is along the new South Central light rail extension, as well as a significant housing portion with an affordable component in there as well. The next site, located at the southwest corner of Dunlap and 19th Avenue in District 3. It's approximately 10.3 acre site. This is the most recent end of line for the light rail before the recent extension to the Thelda Williams Transit Center at the former Metro Center Mall. It is owned by the Public Transit Department. There are some tenants in a small retail strip on the site, but the Public Transit Department is working closely with those tenants to make sure that they understand the future of this particular location. It is included within the Housing Phoenix plan. We did recently rezone this property to walkable urban code as well to allow for those future densities that we want to see along the light rail, and then looking to bring some commercial component to the corner, as well as affordable housing throughout the project. The next location in District 4 at the southeast corner of 19th Avenue in Montebello, approximately 10.2 acre site. This was the original end of line for the light rail system before future expansions to the north, also owned by the Public Transit Department. And then also rezoned recently to walkable urban code with the intent of allowing some increased densities and intensity for this site, looking to develop this site with a commercial component to support the light rail, and then residential with an affordable housing component on the site as well. We also did want to mention several market rate projects that the Community Economic Development Department has worked on using city-owned land. These sites don't have an affordable housing component, but they did bring a significant number of units to the city, which is important when thinking about the overall Housing Phoenix plan and housing affordability in the city. So the first site, the first two sites were actually part of the same RFP, but separate developments. The first one is McKinley Court West, which is now known as just simply the McKinley. It's a 108-unit project that was completed in 2020 at the northeast corner of 3rd Avenue and McKinley Street in District 7. Immediately to the east of that is McKinley Court East, which is a 6-unit townhome project, also in District 7. It's being completed right now. I've heard it's now open for tours, but it's a for-sale project, which brings a diversity of housing types to downtown Phoenix.
Go ahead. Thank you. So just want to clarify on McKinley Court West, is that still city property, or we sold it so that the housing could be built there and then?
Correct. The McKinley Court projects were land disposals where we sold the asset to the developer.
Okay, and so are some of the projects going to remain on city property, or we are disposing of all of this property?
There's for community economic development projects, there's kind of a variety. Some are where we are disposing of the property, some are where we maintain ownership, and I'll speak about one of those in just a minute.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
The next project is the West Fillmore project. To that point, this was a land disposal project where we sold this to the developer for the development of what was then known as High Street Fillmore, but is now known as Ave Phoenix Terra. It's a 342-unit apartment complex with approximately 10,000 square feet of retail that was completed in 2022. This is located at the southeast corner of 5th Avenue and Fillmore in District 7. And then the final project is Central Station. So this is a project the city will maintain ownership of, as it is part of the Phoenix's main public Central Station public transit center. This was really kind of wrapping up construction now, although most of the project is now open. It includes 2 towers. The Mave is the full market rate apartment complex with 338 units. Then there is a student housing tower called Inova, which includes 655 bedroom units. It's not restricted to student housing, but it's designed with the intent of really working well for students where you rent by the bedroom and then you share a common space. The project also includes 73,000 square feet of office, 32,000 square feet of retail, and it's located at the corner of Van Buren and Central Avenue in District 7. With that, I will turn it back to Director Titus Matthew to finish the presentation.
Thank you, Deputy Director Keating. According to the recent Rent Cafe article, this is thanks to the Mayor and Council as well, because it's positive news. The Phoenix metro area is the 2nd fastest growing market in affordable housing construction for the period of 2020 through 2024, based on a comparison of the 5 previous years. During this time period, Phoenix saw a 206% increase in the number of affordable apartments, with the metro area seeing more than 4,600 affordable unit completions, whereas in the previous 5 years, there were only 1,500 completions. Thanks to the Mayor and City Council's thoughtful actions, like promoting the development of the housing on city-owned land, Phoenix is a leader in providing increased affordable housing to our residents. Continuing with the good news, we expect this momentum of affordable housing development to continue. Thanks to the Mayor and City Council, the City of Phoenix has done an excellent job of increasing housing supply, which we committed to do with the Housing Phoenix Plan. As of December 2025, there have been more than 64,000 affordable workforce and market rate units created or preserved within the city. Of these 64,000 units, about 20% are considered affordable. To give you context, about 4 years ago, the tracking was only 10% of the units created or preserved were affordable. Today, we're at about 20%, which is a significant milestone, and kudos to the Mayor and Council. In addition to these units that were completed and online, the Mayor and City Council approved more than 85,000 new housing units through rezoning actions with the Planning and Development Department since 2019. And while not all these entitled units will be utilized for affordable housing, they have helped to provide a pipeline of new housing supply and options. By our estimates, we have more than 2,500 new affordable units underway. Both projects we reviewed with you today, along with other private development projects in progress. This concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions, and I want to thank you all for your support, because this has been an exciting time for the Housing Phoenix Plan and the Housing Department in terms of the creation and preservation. I also want to thank our sister department, CED and Neighborhood Services, for their partnership and contributions as well.
Thank you for an excellent presentation. We know that city-owned property is one of the vital resources that we can use in combating some of the issues that we see in our community. And housing, affordable housing, attainable housing continues to be one of the top issues that we hear from our community. I'll take a quick little detour, and I want to wish Director Titus Matthews a happy birthday. Hopefully we're giving you a good wish. We get to let you talk about all the things that make you happy on your birthday, housing, and I think you did a great report. So happy birthday, sir. I'm going to go ahead and turn to my colleagues first, and then I will go ahead, Deb. Yeah.
Well, thank you, and this is a great presentation. I'm just curious, it seems like we're starting to see an influx of affordable housing projects. Is it the money out there? Because I was talking to the multifamily industry, and they said it was starting to dry up as far as financing for multifamily, but just from what you presented, it looks like maybe there is still the availability.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, Councilwoman Stark, in terms of federal dollars, so far we have not had any cuts to the affordable housing funds available to the Housing Department, but I think a combination of what resources we have put in the last few years in terms of ARPA funding and then providing city-owned land as a option to build affordable housing has also helped. And then also I think the entitlements that have been done through planning and development has also helped with the process as well.
So a lot of it is that we're providing some financial assistance as well.
Yes.
My concern, of course, is some of that money might dry up under this administration, but hopefully not. But I think, this is a great opportunity for us to pursue other incentives that make sure people continue to build affordable housing. So I think Councilwoman O'Brien brought it up yesterday about looking at perhaps setting aside some money for helping build affordable housing through the permitting process. I know back in 2020, when Congresswoman Ansari was here, she and I tried to pursue that type of funding, and of course COVID hit, life changed. But I think that, I think it's a terrific idea, and I hope we pursue it through our budget. But I also hope that we can find other ways to incentivize affordable housing. I know, and I'm happy to see that Columbus is finally getting developed. We did a few RFPs on that, and now things are happening. So I would certainly like down the future to talk about incentives and things we could do as a city to help promote affordable housing. That might be just a separate issue, but I really do appreciate everything that's happening. I'm excited. I've done a lot of work with Trellis, and they're a great partner, and maybe they could be a part of the discussion and have a couple other affordable housing folks come in. But I think that's what we can do. We can be an incentive to ensure that we're seeing affordable housing being built. So thank you for the great presentation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And I think Director Matthews would be okay with me saying I think the incentives can come through the Housing Trust Fund that needs to be funded.
You stole my thunder, Madam Chair.
See, happy birthday.
If I may, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, I just want to make sure that I also plug in terms of the affordable housing space and the arena to build more housing is challenging in itself, because the different capital stacks we need in terms of financing we need. So the Vice Mayor or Madam Chair presented the Housing Trust Fund, and I encourage all of you, that's an option to use to help us to build more affordable housing as well. So a plug for the Housing Trust Fund.
Councilman Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Titus, thank you for being born. I hope there's treats later that are going to be shared with many of us. And thank you as a birthday gift. Thanks for sharing all the wonderful projects in District 7 coming. All of you? No, just kidding, just kidding. But no, really thank you so much for the great presentation. You know, I can talk housing for hours. I think everybody's gonna get sick and tired of me about talking about housing all the time. But this is really a great presentation and really shows the work that is being done to meet the needs that are out there. So I'm really encouraged. I'm really just humbled to represent District 7 that has so much opportunity for growth and seeing amazing projects in the pipeline coming online and projects that will be, you know, out in the future, hopefully in the very near future for redevelopment is really, really encouraging to hear because, you know, the people, our community members have grand ideas. Our office has grand and big visions for what we want to see when we're talking about housing. So really, kudos to all of you for all the hard work. It's really amazing to see. I can't really thank you all enough, and I think this shows the collaboration needed across departments for us to be really creative as a city to really meet the demand and really deliver like solid solutions for housing. So definitely thank you so much for that. And I would echo that it is so important to plug the Housing Trust Fund because there is so much flexibility that we can do. And I think it really creates a path for us to build more of those partnerships with our partners on the outside on how we can really truly deliver housing at every level, right? From low income and affordable housing to really, are we gonna make attainable housing for every resident? So I love it. I wanna kind of highlight specifically in Spencer, you highlighted 2 of the properties in District 7 on Polk. One of them being a duplex. So I think that's going to be a great example of what middle housing can look like in a neighborhood. And as we, you know, I think for me, it's really important that not only do we deliver on just units overall, so these are options for families to live in, but we also try to, how can we help create more paths to homeownership for those that want to become homeowners. I'm always very concerned with, you know, because of a lot of different things that a lot of them are out of our control, you know, we have our residents that are being boxed into only being renters. So I'm very encouraged to see amazing projects like this in the Oakland neighborhood, that a duplex is gonna be able to be built there, and it's just a more reasonably affordable product for one of our families to live in. So good job on that. Love to see it continue to do that. I'm here to support all of that. And then just really have a couple questions. You know, I know that there's a lot of struggles with developing affordable housing, you know, especially in the 60 and below AMI. How have our city zoning policies really impacted that growth? And is there still, I mean, I'm gonna always, I feel like I'm a broken record on zoning. Like, let's look at our zoning to see how we can more easily make it easier to build these affordable projects. So just curious if you have any thoughts on how that has impacted the growth of what we're doing.
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Hernandez, as part of the Housing Phoenix plan, we've worked collaboratively with the Planning and Development Department on several text amendments that have allowed both flexibility to increase the supply of housing, as well as offering ways for developers to, more flexibility in housing as, my apologies.
No worries.
More flexibility in addition to creating ways to provide more affordable housing specifically. For example, one of the text amendments that was worked on a number of years ago was to increase the applicable area of the walkable urban code And the areas that are now applicable are some of the areas that NSD and CED talked about rezoning their properties. So that's providing us additional ways to provide affordable housing and to provide more density.
Thank you so much. Yeah, kudos to Josh and his team also. I know they do a lot of hard work, really alongside every other department to really get those entitlements done and move projects forward. How can we keep growing, in the Phoenix Housing Plan? How can we keep growing this great trend that we're on?
Councilwoman Hernandez and Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee, a simple answer, and I don't want to be facetious when I say this, is we also need additional funding to build more housing. So one of the challenges we have in housing department is we are federally funded for most of our public housing in Section 8, but outside that, we don't get a lot of federal funds. So we have worked with all the limited resources that we have, and we've done a fairly good job between all three departments and planning and development as well. But to continue the growth, we need to figure out a way the city can, like for example, the Housing Trust Fund is a good debate and a good position to have, is how do we fund this on an ongoing basis, right? The question is this going to be a permanent funding source to help us navigate the minefields we're trying to navigate? Because in affordable housing challenges is there's a lot of capital needed to build housing. So a lot of the federal funds are drying up. One of the good things that have come out recently is the low-income housing tax credit has expanded. So that's a good thing. But in terms of federal home funds, which is used for gap financing, I'm not sure what's going to happen or the outcome's going to be eventually. But currently we get about $8 million a year. But that's not enough for our growth in Phoenix to maintain and sustain the developments we need for affordable housing.
Thank you, Titus. And I was going to mention, go ahead, Gina.
If I could just piggyback on what Titus mentioned, another option is, as we've started to make progress in getting these parcels out for development, we also need to make sure that we're taking advantage of other opportunities. And we haven't really started these discussions fully in the city, but there are additional parcels of land acquired for other reasons that may be available that we can also add to this list. As you got to the 66%, if there's a way to add more city land, and that's something we're just starting the discussions on, is another possibility. And then, there is a lot of interest. We have more developers coming from out of state that are interested, and what we get in terms of LIHTC, it doesn't meet the demand. I mean, there will be a lot more applications than there will be those that are able to be constructed. And so I think, just to echo what Titus said, I think it's important that we continue to look for additional funding to be able to meet, have gap financing. I think, if we can look at acquisitions as well of existing properties, and that would be a great opportunity, as some, may need some rehabilitation of some of the properties, but in the future, housing has an amazing portfolio of affordable housing that is not federal, that enables us to serve the community and also kind of supports itself. And so I think if we have opportunities to expand some of that ownership and keep units affordable into the future is another option. And then the last thing I'll say is that, there are some nonprofit developers in the community there that are having trouble competing with the out-of-state for-profit developers, all excellent partners. We want them all to come build housing in Phoenix, but in as much as we can also think about some of those partners, because they really have a lot of the long-term community, that lens, I think, as well, which I think is really, really important to maintain in Phoenix.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned, Titus, the LIHTC piece, the low-income housing tax credit program. I was glad to see it expand at the federal level, I think, to 11%. I'd be remiss to say that it was unfortunate that the state of Arizona let the state LIHTC program lapse last year. So I know there's a lot of efforts down the street with our legislative partners to try to either renew it, or there's a different type of program set in place. I know Representative Sarah Liguori is really working on spearheading one of those solutions that could potentially help with the gap financing and other measures to really deliver truly affordable products. So that's encouraging to hear, and continue to work with that. And you beat me to the housing trust fund situation. And I wanted to mention for my colleagues, we're District 7 is working on when we're talking about incentives, we're working on a transit-oriented community overlay for a part of our district that I think if we can get really creative on how we built that to really encourage some great options when we're talking about housing and mixed use and things like that. So that's something that I've been exploring with Josh and team. So that's something that I think maybe we can do more of, and ways to get creative and really push our creativity and challenge ourselves to think bigger and broader. So thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. Anything from you? Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation today. And actually, I'd just like to follow up on, Gina, what you were talking about. And we are selling these properties, and we're looking at more. When we sell them, where do those funds go? Right, if I'm sitting at home and don't know much about this process.
I'm going to have probably each department talk about, because they might be little different situations, but Titus, if you want to talk about kind of what we do with the land. And
So, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, in terms of housing department, we have not generally sold land, so we actually keep it affordable. We place a land use restriction on the affordability period, so we have a ground lease typically, but we generally do not sell our properties.
Wonderful.
For the Neighborhood Services Department, we are typically selling our properties, and we're selling them to developers who will then sell them to the homeowners who ultimately purchase those. So the funds that come back typically go into our grant funds as program income, because typically we've bought the properties with those grant funds. So throughout the history of NSD, a lot of that has been community development block grants or neighborhood stabilization program funds during the recession.
Excellent.
And Madam Chair, Councilwoman O'Brien, it really depends for community economic development how the properties were purchased initially, and a lot of our properties that we are working on usually often we are working on behalf of another department. So the mix of the properties that I spoke about today were community economic development, neighborhood services, public transit department. And so public transit, a lot of those properties are purchased with FTA money. And so those funds have to go back into the public transit system. Neighborhood services, as Director Self just mentioned, those are often purchased with some sort of community development block grants or some other source, and those funds need to go back into that source. For properties purchased by the Community Economic Development Department, usually they're purchased with the downtown community reinvestment funds, and so those funds would go back into that fund. But sometimes we may have a partner. So for the West Fillmore project, for example, we have partnered with the Phoenix IDA to purchase those properties, and so some of those proceeds had to go back to the Phoenix IDA.
I do just want to note some of the properties that were acquired with prior bond funds, and so generally when those funds come back to the city, they would go back to the city coffers.
Wonderful. And I appreciate that you all answered for the various different scenarios, because it's not just cut and dry like a resident might think about buying and selling their own property. There's many different opportunities for the city, and based on the rules of where that money came from is where it goes back. But ultimately, and sometimes we're able to, I would imagine, buy other properties to continue the cycle. And then, Zandon, I'd like to go back to, you talked about a couple of properties and doing some community outreach and having a request from residents for there to be retail, ground floor retail on some of the projects. And I know I appreciate very much that residents want retail and restaurants. I'm from the northwest part of Phoenix, and I can tell you residents up there have been clamoring for more than 10 years that they're not getting the kind of retail and restaurants that they like. But I also know, from a business perspective, you've got to have the rooftops. So although that's what residents want, what do we do to look at that they can fulfill and will be successful retail there, so that we're not putting requirements on there that will cause a failure.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Councilwoman O'Brien, we work closely with the developers and potential retailers to make sure that we're before we release a request for proposals, we're crafting it in a way to make it successful. We don't want to put too many restrictions on the potential project where it can't eventually be successful, and we want to work closely with them as they're building their development to make sure that it's being developed in a way. We've learned a lot over the last 10 or 15 years. There have been projects that have had varying levels of success over the years, and I hope that we've learned a lot of lessons from those and hope to not repeat those same mistakes. The other thing that we've started to do is to do more on the study side beforehand to make sure that those rooftops are there. Also, going out and talking to retailers to see, is this something that's viable at this particular location? A couple locations that I talked about, a couple properties I talked about were in South Phoenix, for example. And we hear a lot about wanting grocery stores, wanting health facility, medical facilities, wanting restaurants and other amenities like that. And so we've spent a lot of time talking to those businesses to understand from them what they need in order to locate in those areas and try to show them, what works, what doesn't work, and, drive the business that way. But then also working very closely with the communities to hear what they're missing from their neighborhoods and try to respond with that as well.
I appreciate that. I want to make sure that we're bringing amenities, but I also want to make sure we're not sacrificing additional doors because of that, and that we're setting them up for success. So I appreciate all that you're doing. I look forward to having continued conversations about what other city properties we can look at for additional diverse housing in our city. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. I have a few questions, but before I begin, I just want to again reiterate that one of the reasons I wanted to bring this presentation to the community is, again, I believe that city-owned land is one of the most significant tools that we have to influence housing production and affordability. And many of our residents are not aware of all of the things that we are doing. So I thought this was a great opportunity to, one, refresh the community, to highlight some of those projects and hopefully foster some additional interest in the RFIs and RFPs that we have outstanding. And I want to start off, one thing that our works are not going unknown. Was recently shared with me an article that identified Phoenix as one of the top 20 cities, for affordable housing production between 2020 and 2024. And I believe that's because of the intentionality in which we have addressed this. I am very proud of the work that is happening in District 8, from the Moreland to what's going on in Edison, Eastlake, Garfield neighborhood, the 17 lots that we have in South Mountain and 24th Street and Broadway. However, one of the things that stood out to me during this presentation is I saw a concentration of these types of projects in District 7 and District 8. And I don't recall seeing much in District 1 or District 2. And I want to know, one, are there parcels included in the Housing Phoenix plan that identify these additional districts? And how are we going to ensure that this is spread more equitably throughout the city?
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, in 2020, when the council approved the list of parcels to be slated for affordable housing development, primarily the parcels were located in districts 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8. Unfortunately, affordable housing land is not available, not much is available in District 1, 2, and 6. And we would love to have affordable housing developments across the city. And one of the conditions of HUD for us as a PHA is to deconcentrate poverty and making sure every region is represented. I think in the last 10 years, I think I saw one affordable housing development project come through in District One, I think it was the last couple of years, it was the first time I'm seeing it, but part of the challenge is the cost of land. So if there's an opportunity for the city to acquire multifamily complexes or land in itself in those districts, I'm open to that as well.
Thank you for that. Go ahead.
Putting on my own planning director hat, I think part of the problem in District 1 and District 2 is so much of the land that's vacant is state land owned. And right or wrong, their charge is to sell that property for the highest and best use. I've always thought this, that we need reform at the state land, and one of the things we should be looking at is that they help provide affordable housing. But the way it's written in the Constitution is that they have to sell it for the highest and best use. But I think that's something that perhaps we should pursue, with our governmental group and the League of Town Cities, because I'm sure other cities and towns have the same problem. They're surrounded by a lot of state land. And when you look at District 1 and District 2, it's pretty much state land.
No, I recognize that. My comments was to highlight that we are actually continuing. While I am, like I said, while I'm a fan of the work that's being done, we want to make sure that we are not concentrating that into certain portions of our community. It continues to it has the equivalent of redlining in an essence, and I do believe that we can do a little bit better, and I want to just point that out for us. I agree with Councilwoman Starks that the state land we may need to figure out some level of advocacy that can help ensure that I think every lawmaker in this state hears that housing concerns. And if the state has an asset such as land, we should be asking for them to consider making modifications to account for that. Yeah. So that was a point of my comment. It was not to be negative. It was more so to recognize that we are concentrating. And I firmly believe that the entirety of Phoenix should be a place where individuals can live, work, and play. And we want to make sure that options are available throughout the city, all 509 square miles of it, not just in certain districts. So back up to the positive news on here. The fact that we are leading in this area says a lot about what we are doing here from it. And I love the fact that it was an interdepartment presentation, because it shows it's a cross-section that is collaborating to make this a priority. Again, I wanted to highlight some of the projects. Would we like to share with anyone that is watching? I know Garfield, we said we only have 2 of the 10 homes that have been committed. Would you like to share how someone could get more information regarding that? We'd love to see more homeownership opportunities.
Madam Chair and committee members and everyone at home, if you are interested in acquiring any of the land that we're selling in Garfield, you can reach out to Trellis, who is leading the efforts to dispose of those properties. They are available on the MLS. You may see them posted that way as well. But reaching out to Trellis, you can find details on those, or Habitat for Humanity once we get the Polk Street properties going. Those tend to be our partners that we're working with at the moment.
Thank you so much for that. And then also, I wanted to give Zandon an opportunity to talk about how we can get more information about the projects that are in the pipeline. I know there are some, I don't know if you want to reference, I'll let you go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so we do have several projects in the pipeline. We will post information on those projects on our website, lobbyist.phoenix.gov. And there's a development opportunities page on there where we post information about all of our RFPs. We also have what's called the development hot list that you can sign up for. It's an email distribution list that anybody can sign up for, and they get first notification of any opportunities that come up, any awards that go out, all of the first information about all of those projects as it becomes public.
And how do we sign up for the development hot list?
You go to that website, lobbyist.phoenix.gov, and there's a link on there to sign up.
Thank you so much for that. Again, thank you for the excellent presentation. Housing continues to be one of our, it's one of the issues we hear a lot about, so I thank you for showing the intentionality and the comprehensive approach in which we address it as a city. Again, I'll take a shameless opportunity to continue to plug for additional funding for our housing trust fund, as well as but also finding a permanent funding source as well. Thank you again for your presentation. And if there's no other questions, I will move on to the next item. Thank you. We will move on to item number 7, which is state of third grade reading proficiency. And welcome our Youth and Education Director, Tim Valencia, to the table.
Good morning, Vice Mayor. Madam Chair and members of the Community Service and Education Committee. Our subcommittee today are focused on third grade reading proficiency citywide and the steps that we're taking to improve those outcomes. In Arizona, literacy remains a challenge. In 2024, only 26% of our fourth graders were proficient on the National Assessment of Educational Progress. This national assessment is provided to all students in all states. For Arizona third graders, 36% of students were proficient on the Arizona Academic Standards assessment in 2025. Phoenix faces even greater challenges. In 2025, only 27% of third graders were proficient on the state assessment, a decline, at least a steadily decline from 33% in 2022. This means more than 15,000 students are currently reading below grade level. The graph illustrates 10 years of Arizona assessment data. Prior to the pandemic, student performance was steadily improving. In 2020, the state assessment was not administered due to the pandemic disruption, and since then, overall performance has not returned to pre-pandemic levels. This trend highlights the ongoing need for targeted supports to accelerate recovery and closing learning gaps. Of our 25 school districts serving K-8 students in Phoenix, this graph shows only 4 have at least 50% of third graders reading proficiently. 13 school districts have 20% or less of their students reading proficiently. The pandemic definitely caused unprecedented disruption to education, underscoring the urgent need for additional support for students and families in and out of school. This graph shows proficiency by ethnicity from 2024 to 2025. While Asian and white student groups saw small gains, all other groups experienced decline, averaging around 3.5%. These widening gaps underscore the need for targeted, community-specific intervention to ensure every student has equitable opportunities to achieve reading success. So why does this matter? Students who do not read proficiently by third grade are 4 times more likely to leave high school without a diploma. This is a Phoenix community issue, not just an education system challenge. Consistent daily attendance is essential for students to build strong literacy skills. In 2025, 23% of Phoenix students were chronically absent, a slight improvement from 24% in 2024. Among economically disadvantaged students, the rate also decreased modestly from 27% to 26%. A student is considered chronically absent when they miss 10% or more of the school year, which equals around 18 days. Despite these small gains, roughly 1 in 4 students in Phoenix continue to miss school, at least enough school to significantly impact learning. The chart that you see in front of you is chronic absenteeism rates across Phoenix school districts. 6 school districts have 1/3 of their students chronically absent. 17 of Phoenix school districts also reported absenteeism above 25% among economically disadvantaged students. 8 districts experienced an increase in chronic absenteeism in 2025. These patterns underscore the significant attendance challenges across our city, with the greatest impact falling on our most vulnerable students. So what is that impact? Students who are chronically absent in first and second grade are 2 to 3 times likely to read below grade level by third grade. Because early grades lay the foundation for literacy, timely intervention is essential to keep students on track. In response, the city's early literacy programs have integrated attendance awareness into their work, helping families understand why showing up every day matters and providing strategies to build strong attendance habits from the very beginning. So what is our response? And I'll start at the state level. So Read On Arizona is a statewide public-private literacy initiative dedicated to ensuring children are reading at grade level by the end of third grade. Our statewide goal is very ambitious. 95% of third graders we hope are proficient. Nope, not hope, that will be proficient by 2030. It's very ambitious. Well, behind that is a literacy plan that focuses on 4 pillars. That is building educator capacity. That's with teachers, pre-K, K-3, even our city staff when it comes to science of reading. Scaling evidence-based practices. That means those that truly move the needle around literacy. Engaging families. Families, parents, caregivers are their child's first teacher and providing those skills they need. And also expanding access to early learning. So what is our local response? The Read On Phoenix initiative is also committed to ensuring our students are reading at grade level by third grade. Our work does align with the Arizona Literacy Plan and really focuses on strengthening school readiness and K-3 literacy in underserved communities. We collaborate with amazing partners who actually sit on our committee with evidence-based practices. Those organizations are Stanford Children, Southwest Human Development, First Things First. They all help us expand family engagement, provide early literacy resources, support educator training, and increase access to high-quality books. Together, we are building a coordinated, community-driven approach to improve early literacy outcomes across Phoenix. Based on all this recent data, Read On Phoenix partners develop strategies to increase grade level reading supports. They include aligning literacy initiative across city departments and of course our community, expanding early literacy opportunities for birth to 5 children, increasing access to tutoring and after-school programs, creating literacy-rich environments, and most importantly, making sure we target our highest need communities. Through these evidence-based strategies, comprehensive staff training, and strong partnership with families in the community, our city work that we do ensures every child has a strong foundation for lifelong learning and academic success. Program staff in human services, library, and even in youth and education, we have all received extensive training on the science of reading to ensure all our efforts align with proven practices that advance literacy. Under our kindergarten readiness and family engagement, our key programs include our Phoenix Families First Resource Centers, Phoenix Great Start, Head Start Birth to 5, and of course the library's early learning programs and outreach, which includes kindergarten boot camp. Together, these programs prepare children for success through high-quality, evidence-based programming. And to support third-grade reading proficiency, we offer a range of programs in many departments, which includes Experience Core tutoring, school literacy hubs, book-rich environments and after-school program in our housing communities, Story Walk, which is at Cesar Chavez, Edison, and Harmon, and of course our Phoenix PAC after-school program, which partners with ASU to provide one-on-one tutoring. All of these efforts align with current literacy strategies and are designed to accelerate reading growth for Phoenix students. We are committed to connecting families with literacy programs and raising awareness about the importance of third grade reading. One of our key efforts, which you heard last subcommittee meeting, was our Helping Phoenix Families campaign, which promotes services that support early literacy and third grade reading success. Through strategic storytelling, strong partnerships, and targeted outreach, this campaign will highlight many program achievements and really empower families to access the tools and resources they need to help their children thrive. We just want to thank you for your continued support. You play a powerful role in advancing early literacy by helping us coordinate book drives and distributing books in high-needed communities and even schools, while also helping us spread the word about the importance of attendance and third grade reading. By using your social media, your newsletters, even your community events to highlight available Phoenix resources and share inspiring stories from families and educators, you can help strengthen our engagement and awareness. You can also support schools during our Educator Appreciation Week, which is March 4th through the 8th, or even promote literacy by volunteering to read to a class during Read Across America, which is already happening in a couple weeks, March 2nd through the 6th. If you need any assistance with these, we're here to help you. But most indefinitely, you'll be help reinforcing our shared commitment to helping every child succeed. Together, we can ensure every child in Phoenix has a foundation for lifelong success. So again, thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Third grade proficiency is one of the clearest indicators of long-term academic success. And like you mentioned, when children are reading on grade level by third grade, they are far more likely to graduate from high school and pursue secondary opportunities. And that's why I think it's important for us to identify the concerns and have a plan to address those concerns. So I really want to thank you for outlining what it is that we can do and why the investments in early childhood education, family engagement, and literacy programs continue to be so important. I'm going to see if there's any questions from my colleagues before I move on. Councilwoman Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I would agree that this is such a concerning topic. You know, as we were reviewing the agenda and just seeing some of those numbers that you've shared, really rattled myself and my team. It's just, I think it's a very urgent need. And we're going to continue to treat it with the urgency that it needs to make sure that we're doing everything we can to improve these numbers, to help us improve those numbers. But I am glad to hear that, we've started a move and a plan to move towards addressing this and manage these to really increase those. So really thank you for that. It was interesting on slide 4 where the proficiency levels really, the assessment really took a dip in understanding some of those other factors, right? But an interesting point to me was in 2022, where those percentages really started to decline. For me, why that is a huge flag is, and I don't know if the broader community understands the timeline of this, but for me, I tie that to when at the state legislature, they did the ESA program to go universal, which really affected the funding going into our public schools and has now continuously affected the funding going into our public schools. So for me, there's a direct correlation that's not really a question, more of my own statement. But I think I treat that as a very direct correlation that the numbers show that because of the actions of the majority party in our state, it really reflects that our reading proficiencies are on the decline since that action happened. So, which has a broader negative effect that they're not willing to accept accountability for. So that's just my little tangent, that it's an area that I've been very frustrated with, just the coordinated attacks on public education, and that unfortunately is hurting the broader community, because I do think that this is bigger than an education issue. It is a Phoenix, I completely agree, Tim, it is a Phoenix community issue, because this is our youth that's going into our workforce, right, eventually growing into our community leaders. So just a lot of concerns there, and ultimately because of actions like that, right, we are failing our children by showing with those numbers being so low at proficiency levels. So really just trying to gain a deeper understanding of how we can tackle this issue, given the role that, I've already mentioned one of the pieces, but that coordinated effort to really how they're affecting the funding that's going into supporting our public education. So just have some question on a couple of ideas and want to see if these have been things that have been talked through, also as a newer member of the council, so definitely, here to learn more. It looks like we have data that predicts reading level issues around second grade. Are there any other signs that could be identified earlier that would help us see that issue before kids get to the third grade level and test at the reading skills?
Yes, every school districts do provide beginning, mid, and end of year assessments to first, second, and third graders to start looking at whether additional services or interventions are needed. So there are things put in place at every school that will show whether they're reading at grade level, their fluency, their accuracy. And there's many vendors, so the Department of Education, Arizona Department of Education provides a list of certain vendors where schools can choose for those specific assessments.
Okay, thank you. And I know you mentioned a few of the partners, our outside partners that we're working with, like Stand for Children, First Things First, which I think are great organizations. I know First Things First is really doing a lot of work and trying to identify more funding for their 0 to 5 programming to make sure that they are helping families. And has a conversation been had, and I don't know, maybe this is in their area or something we can ask them about literacy screenings at, as pediatric visits or kind of like the external support system that they might need. That was just a question we kind of wanted to raise.
I can definitely get back with you on that question, but there are programs in our doctor's offices that do promote literacy, early literacy, and I believe it's Southwest Human Development, but that name does escape me, but I can provide that information.
Oh, yes, that would be wonderful. I think there's an external support component, right, to this that a lot of our most vulnerable families are really needing that support. And I think I'm really concerned about this year's numbers when we look back, considering some of the federal actions that are happening that are also keeping kids at home right now. So a lot of concern there. My other question is around universal pre-K. Have we as a city previously talked about any review on doing universal pre-K to identify costs and if there is a viable path forward for that, or any conversations with our state partners around trying to create universal pre-K?
We have definitely been at the table when it comes for that discussion for universal pre-K. While that would be a state decision, we have been at the table to discuss the importance of universal pre-K.
Okay, thank you so much, Tim. I appreciate that. I think that's an avenue that I know other states have taken very recently, so hopefully Arizona will do the right thing and really create that path forward. Thank you so much. Those are my only questions, and this is going to be I'm sure it's going to be a continued conversation we have here in this subcommittee. I'm very encouraged that, our chair is so passionate about this topic, so thank you, Vice Mayor, for always bringing and highlighting this. I'm not satisfied that we as a city are doing everything we can, so I want to be a partner and explore ways that, we can be helpful to really push solutions on this so we can do everything together to support kids. I know I see it through your passion that you are wanting to do that, so just count on us to try to help and do everything we can with that, because, like you said, it is a Phoenix community-wide issue. Eventually, we are paying for these failures because we eventually pay for criminalization to greet the kids when they grow up. And so research consistently shows that a large majority of the youth that who are incarcerated are either illiterate or read severely below grade level. And we really need to show our youth that we invest more money into their education and their development rather than into systems that punish them. And this is exactly what people refer to as cradle to prison pipeline in real time, and we are seeing that happen. So I just want to make sure that, I want to be assured that we are doing everything we can to reduce that damage and continue to invest into our youth and to our families to just change the trajectory of their paths forward and boost up, right, and just create a thriving Phoenix for everyone. So just thank you so much for all your hard work, and just really looking forward to doing more work alongside you to find every solution we can to really invest into our youth. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Madam
Councilwoman
Chair.
Hernandez.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hernandez. Councilwoman O'Brien?
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure it'll come as no surprise that this is also a passion of mine since I started my advocacy in my children's schools. So a couple of things. It would be wonderful if there was funding for for universal preschool, but I might point out that the state of Arizona doesn't fully fund all-day kindergarten. We implemented a standard that students must be at a certain proficiency level in 3rd grade for reading, yet we do not fully fund kindergarten. We don't pay for any kind of preschool. And the truth is, even if you are capable of having your child attend preschool, and you do get lucky enough, and I say lucky enough, that's right, if you're born in the right zip code, and they've passed an override, sorry, I want to use the correct term, or you are able to attend a charter school or go to private school, unless you keep, for that full day kindergarten, unless you keep up with the learning, even that proficiency isn't going to help you at 3rd grade. It is an indicator, but we must continue to provide the advances and change. And I think school districts and charter schools and private schools are trying to do that in a very competitive market, but we're not even providing the basics, and I say that when I mean full day kindergarten. So that is frustrating. On slide 4, which my colleague referenced, I would point out that that huge dip in 2021 was actually the year that most schools were closed for, they were doing online learning. So that was huge. If you were a kindergarten that year, I don't know how those poor babies did it and those families did it. And we have not, as you can see, we didn't recover, and we are on the decline still. So we have a lot of work to do, and given we're the city of Phoenix and this is not totally within our purview, we're limited in how we can help. One of the slides that you provided had to do with the absentee rate, and I would ask if we could find out or find if the districts track what is causing that absenteeism rate, because then we could maybe help to provide services. I know that when I was a school board member, at one time I heard that the #1 cause for students missing school was they were in pain, and they were in pain because of their teeth, because they weren't getting the proper dental care. That is a partnership we can help to create and something we can help to fix. So if we could look into finding out that information, or if we already have those partnerships with the school districts, that is great. And if there's other reasons or new reasons, because I'm not up to date on what is causing the huge absenteeism rate, I would love to know more about that if you could follow up with us. I am thankful that we are helping out where we can and support us continuing to work with the great partners we have in Phoenix and the state of Arizona on helping to build literacy and provide that information. And the sooner we can do it and the sooner we can help our families. I did appreciate last month's presentation on what we do for families, and we need to continue moving forward and advocate. We are bringing a lot of great jobs to the city of Phoenix and the state, right? They're not just coming here, they're coming all over our state, and it's important that we help make sure that our kids, no matter what age they are right now, are ready, and that the adults can also be prepared and trained. So thank you for all that you do. This frustrates me that this is a problem that we still have to talk about, and my kids are 30 and 27, so that tells you how long I've been talking about this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. I too wanted to, I thought it was very keen of the mayor to include education in this subcommittee and not specifically, and flag that. And I took that as a challenge as to what more can we be doing as a community. I think you did a really good job outlining the problem, but I really want to focus on slide 13. I want to talk a little bit more about the strategies for 26 through 2030, because I do believe that acknowledging that this is similar to how our prior presentation had multiple departments, I really was grateful to see that we were trying to align literacy initiatives across all city departments. Many times, many individuals don't necessarily think about education and literacy from that perspective. And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about how you envision some of that cross-department collaboration.
I can definitely start with aligning our literacy programs and initiatives across departments. One thing that we tackled was just professional development. We knew our teachers, our educators were receiving science of reading training. Well, in order for our programs to align, whether it's in our family resource centers, kindergarten boot camp, and our housing facility, the programs we're working, we knew we needed to bring that training to our staff. So the same training that our educators are getting in Arizona, our staff in all those departments have received. And that's kind of was the starting point before we start looking at programmatically, how do we fine tune those programs to be better evidence informed or evidence based that truly help move that needle. When we talk about increasing tutoring, after school programs and summer learning, I am constantly looking for funding to increase our tutoring program. That is specifically an evidence-based program. It's listed on the Arizona Department of Education's website. Our schools that we're currently in, they write us in their literacy plan to the state because our program has been proven effective. So those are ways in which we are trying, but it's not just my office, it's not just all the departments we work with, but it's also our community. I really failed to mention that part of Read on Phoenix is United Way, and with Councilwoman O'Brien's comment about attendance, we have a grant from Helios that United Way manages that targets school districts in Phoenix and Southwest Valley around chronic absenteeism. So I absolutely can get that information for you. But it's really about our community and how we take these strategies and apply it across the board and be strategic. We don't want to duplicate services. We want to go in communities most in need. That we're data driven. So we're going to go into those communities that need our help. There's many communities that have many students reading at grade level. We may provide awareness type activities, but those intentional intervention programs, we're going to go to communities most in need. So that's kind of how I envision it, just really fine tuning these strategies and how we implement our programs across the city.
I appreciate that. I specifically want to just ask one follow-up question regarding the funding for these evidence-based programs. Do you want to share what you believe that request should look like?
A request for funding?
Yeah, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You're real.
Not to put you on the spot, but I think it's helpful for us to understand if it's a priority for us to ensure what that looks like so that we can also be advocates for you in ensuring that if there's available funds, that is allocated towards these programs.
Here's what I can tell you. We have more schools knocking on our door than we could provide services for. So any type of funding that I can find, whether that's within the city or even with grant funding that I'm constantly looking at, we are always looking to expand our funding. When the ESSER dollars, part of the money that came down from the feds ended, I think this was last fall already. That was significant for me because I did have a grant from the Department of Ed to help expand literacy hubs and our Experience Core tutoring program. But we are always looking for funding. But just so you know, we have more schools knocking on our door than what we can provide, just based on volunteer capacity, funding, and all those challenges.
That actually goes into my second question. My next question was, I was really thankful that you outlined in slide number 5 the range of the school districts within the city, because I think that helps us identify where the greatest needs are and where the greatest impacts could be reached. So my next question was, identifying school districts, was there more that we could, is there additional pathways that we could use to impact or influence the school districts that are knocking on the door? Is there more that we can do, of course, in addition to funding, but are there specific programs that we should be, or initiatives? Some of us have participatory funding in our budget. Is there things that we could do as council members to help move the needle in our respective districts?
Well, as I said before, we're data-driven, so we would, as a Read on Phoenix initiative, we would be so appreciative of looking at the data and where the needs are. We are always willing to sit down and discuss, not only with just my office, but the individuals across our community that sit on the Read on Phoenix initiative, to discuss those opportunities and where additional funding, whether it's participatory funding, which would be great because that's really youth-led, and how they can change their community. So we could have a lot of discussion on how we could target. Other things you can do is when you're in the community and you know about our programs, sometimes it is difficult to get into Phoenix school districts. We have a lot of great relationships that we're able to get into, but there are some that we haven't been able to get into. And we can definitely have that discussion on how you could help us, specifically in 7 and 8, how we can get into some of those districts and provide some of the services that we can.
Okay. I think Councilwoman Hernandez and I, I'm going to sign you up for volunteer tribute to help with you on that, because I do believe it is, I saw quite a bit of our districts represented in the lower performing portion of this, and I think we both have a vested interest in trying to ensure that that changes.
I was gonna say, I'm like, please let me know which ones are giving you a hard time, because we're here to help. So yeah, would be happy to help work on how to get into these districts, because I saw some of the names and I'm like, very, very set on ease. So yes,
We
count me in.
definitely appreciate your advocacy for that.
Perfect. And then my last question goes to, as we articulate or prepare our strategies for 2026, 2030, I'm curious as to what metrics for success, or what are we going to use to gauge the success throughout the time period? Of course, I presume one of those would be hopefully an increase in the proficiency rate, but I also think another metrics of success is simply establishing better relationships with the school district, having a more formalized, cohesive partnership. But I would love to hear your feedback on, so what do you think are some appropriate metrics of success for this plan?
It's definitely, obviously, as you said, third grade reading and even attendance rates. But most importantly, it's our partners and their performance when their outcomes. So in the fall, when we had our Read on Phoenix community meeting, we had what we called a data walk. And we laid that foundation baseline of what were their successes and what are their outcomes, and then how can we improve it. And our next meeting is in March to carry on the discussion, exactly what you're saying is what that matrix is going to look like and what that outcome is going to look like.
And is it possible to share the minutes or the reports from those meeting with us, members of the subcommittee, just so we can have some tangible action items?
Absolutely. I can send you, each partner provided a one-page data sheet. And my office blew them up into poster size, and then we kind of went around and discussed. So I can definitely send that information to you, to the subcommittee.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation. I think this discussion reinforced the importance of alignment between the city, the school districts, our community partners. I believe we all share a common responsibility for ensuring our children have the tools they need to succeed. I really do appreciate this update, and I look forward to continued collaboration to strengthen literacy across our city and hopefully build on those partnerships to ensure that the next generation is better than the generation that preceded them. So thank you so much for this presentation.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, subcommittee members.
Vice Mayor, I believe we have a speaker for item 7. Are they still on? Apologies.
Yes, thank you so much for that. We do have a speaker, Halal Omema. Halal, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello, I hope you're doing well.
Hope you're doing well as well.
Thank you. So good morning, Vice Mayor Washington and members of the subcommittee. So my name is Humayma Hilal and I'm currently a Fulbright scholar here at Arizona State University, working on research related to community resilience and long-term development systems. So I want to thank you for highlighting like the third grade reading proficiency and as a priority. What stood out to me in the report is not just the literacy percentage, but what it represents. Third grade reading is not only an education metric, but it's a resilience indicator. So like for the research, research consistently shows that early literacy predicts future academic success, economic mobility, workforce readiness, and even long-term health outcomes when only 27% of third grades are reading at grade level. This is not simply a school issue, it becomes a citywide development challenge. But I was particularly encouraged to see the cross-sector approach outlined, the family engagement, the early childhood programming, the literacy hubs, the partnerships with housing and community organizations. That system thinking, like that kind of system thinking, I found it very essential. And like coming from international background, from Morocco, and they live in different countries in Europe, I have seen that the cities that succeed, like in different countries, are those that treat early education as infrastructure, just as is important as roads or housing, which is for now unfortunately not the case in Morocco, for example, but all the countries I have seen, Norway and many Scandinavian countries and many European countries, taking the education as infrastructure helped a lot and was very important as roads or housing. So I see if Phoenix continues to align housing stability, family services, libraries, after school programming and literacy in a very coordinated way, this initiative can become a national example of urban resilience through education. So yeah, thank you for your leadership on this issue and for the commitment to building a city where every child has a strong foundation for the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I think your comments wrapped up very nicely or summarized very nicely what we are trying to do here in the city. And that is to ensure that every child has a fair opportunity, and that opportunity starts with reading. You learn to read so you can read to learn. So thank you again for your comments. Thank you again, Director Valencia, for the presentation. So the last item today is a call to public. I do not believe we have any registered speakers. We do not have any registered speakers. Are there any requests for future agenda items? All right, seeing none, thank you. The meeting is adjourned.